What's up, guys? Welcome back again to your Heroclix headquarters. So today we've got some more exciting new rules updates from WizKids. Article number 3 just came out. So without any further ado, let's just jump right into it. And speaking of jumping, we'll start off with leap climb. So basically this whole new article was about how they're changing some powers coming up. And they started off with leap climb. Now leap climb, if you don't already know what it does, it's basically currently a move action, and then you get like improved movement for almost everything, and then you get breakaway +2, and that's about it. You also get to make close attacks regardless of elevation, which was kind of a nice thing, but that's the thing is a lot of people usually forget that's even there, don't really use it very often. Doesn't really come up a lot. So going forward, the new leap climb is actually just going to be just straight up improved movement for elevated outdoor blocking, and the one where you can move through characters but still need to break away normally or whatever that is. So that's basically it. No hindering, but they did say specifically that it might feel like a nerf because there's no longer hindering there or the +2 for breakaway, but they said that wait, and you'll see why that's not really such a bad thing. So that leaves a lot of room for interpretation. I'm thinking potentially no more breakaway rolls, maybe, and no more hindering, stopping movement, maybe. We'll just have to wait and see how that goes when they want to tell us that. Hopefully soon we'll find out what that means. But regardless, I think this is a pretty good change to leap climb. Now, it just gives you the improved movement. It's basically like having it, you know, on the card there, just the improved movement symbol with the symbols. It's basically the same thing. So anytime you move, you're gonna get that. So I mean, it's not really that big of a buff to leap climb. It's almost kind of a nerf because they got rid of the whole can attack regardless of elevation thing. But they just took that out because they said a lot of people just forget about that anyway, so it's fair. But yeah, I mean, it's really a huge buff if you combo it with other powers like sidestep or running shot or charge or even hypersonic. If you can combo it with some type of special power, or if they just had traded leap climb, which I don't know why you'd have traded leap climb, you could literally just have the improved movement symbol. But there are old characters that have traded leap climb or have it as part of a special. So that works a lot better now. Some characters have like leap climb and running shot, you know, there's some like Daredevils and Spider-Mans that have stuff like that. So those kinds of characters do have a big buff for that. They can actually use the improved movement for the running shot, and that's awesome. So all in all, I'm really happy with the changes to leap climb. I think it's a win. I think that's a better use of the power. You don't have to take a whole move action. So moving on, the next one they talked about is Telekinesis. And now this is a big change. I'm not sure I love it, but from a perspective of simplifying the game, it's much better. So basically they listed all the different types of options you have for telekinesing things, which is basically you can move your character, you can move an object, you can throw an object and make an attack, you can move an opposing character. There's a lot of options, and writing all that huge wall of text, super complicated. I know Telekinesis is one of the most confusing powers in the game. That's why I did a Power of the Week on it, and I'm gonna have to do another one because they just changed it. But so basically they simplified it now, so it's just going to be target friendly character or friendly object within your minimum 6 squares, range and line of fire, yada yada. And it basically does the same thing. You can, if you know it and the target have a line of fire, you can place it in a square within 6 squares in line of fire. Same thing, but now it's literally just friendly character, friendly object. Those are your only options, and you both have to have range and line of fire. I know it's probably not really a great way to explain everything, but I'm not trying to do a whole how to use telekinesis video right now. So it's much more simplified, and I think overall it's a really good change to the power. Not having to write out different rules for if you're TKing an object, or if you're TKing a friendly character, or if you're TKing an opposing character, or if you're making an object attack. Like, you don't have to write out all those different rules anymore. You just say, minimum 6 range, line of fire, friendly character, friendly object, whatever. And if you can both see the target square within 6 range and line of fire, then you place them there. Easy done. I think it's better. 99% of the time I use telekinesis. That's what it's for, either moving an object to my characters to equip it first turn, or just moving my characters out so they can like running shot on something. I mean, it is kind of a big nerf because it takes away tons of the options of telekinesis, but I think it's a nerf that we can all live with since it does make it a much more easily understood power. And it's still a very strong power. It still does really what you want it to do most of the time, so I'm totally fine with that, and I think that's another win. So moving on, next we have big changes to Close Combat Expert and Range Combat Expert. So both of the Combat Experts got, in my opinion, a huge buff. So it's a little bit of a nerf in a sense, but it's a huge buff overall because, again, they're trying to remove a little bit of how many options there are to all these different powers and how complicated there are. So before, with Range or Close Combat Expert, you could choose either +2 to your attack, or +2 to your damage, or +1 to both. And the fact that it was a power action honestly was super confusing to a lot of people, because I know a lot of newer players always think for some reason that they can combine the Range Combat Expert with Running Shot, but of course it doesn't work that way. Well, it didn't before, it does now. I'll explain that in just one second, but so that was, I know, one thing that a lot of people always struggled with was, why can't I Range Combat Expert and Running Shot? Well, now you can. It's not a power action anymore. It's literally just, if you're making a ranged combat attack for Range Combat Expert, you get +1 attack and +1 damage. So you don't have to choose if you want 2 to 1 or 2 to the other or 1 on both. I feel like a lot of the time I would choose 1 to both, because I just feel like, you know, it gets you better odds of hitting and you're doing more damage. It's the best of both worlds. You know, sometimes you really need the +2 to one or the other to actually hurt something if you have like a 1 damage, or to actually hit something if you only have like a 9 attack. But I mean, I think overall this is a really good change because it makes it much more easily understood that, you know, if this is a Range Combat Expert character, they can get +1 attack and damage whenever they're making a ranged combat attack. That's great. Same thing for Close Combat Expert. It's just +1 attack and damage whenever you make a close attack. So this is a huge buff also because now these can combo with all those other kinds of powers, not just Running Shot and Charge, but like Penetrating Blast and Pulse Wave, or Flurry is a big one for Close Combat Expert. I mean, Super Strength, even if they, unless they change Super Strength in some way, I'm not sure, but you know, you could actually get the +1 attack and damage, as well as, you know, maybe a +2 damage from holding a heavy object. So yeah, I'm super happy about these changes. And if you'd asked me before the rules changes today what I thought they were going to do to them, I was going to say I think they're going to maybe make Close Combat Expert a Close Combat Action and Range Combat Expert a Range Combat Action, just so that it can combo with like Running Shot and Charge and some of those other powers. But I think this is a much better way to do it. Just an always-on static buff to those types of attacks is really great. And there's already a lot of characters that I want to try out with this change to the powers. So I really, really like that change to them, and I think that's a huge, huge benefit to newer players and older players alike, because there's lots of really good old figures that have Close Combat Expert and Flurry for some reason. But anyway, moving on, we did have one more power to take a look at, and it's a huge one, especially for me, because it's probably my favorite power in the game, and that's Perplex. They did kind of nerf Perplex, but again, kind of in a good way, okay? So Perplex, of course, used to be free, minimum range 6, target character within 6 range and line of fire. You can either +1 or -1 any of their stats. And it's all going to be more or less the same, except it's going to say except damage. So now you can plus or minus anything except damage. So this is, I mean, technically it's a huge nerf to Perplex, right? Because you can't perplex a damage up anymore. But at the same time, it is kind of good for the game, because we're at a point now where there's a lot of teams that just like have all these cheap little Perplex figures, and they just triple Perplex up something's damage, and they equip it with octopus arms, right? And it just charges out there and flurries your whole team to death with like a 13 attack, 14 attack, and like 6 damage on everything. I think we all know who we're talking about. Vulture, I'm looking at you. But I mean, a lot more figures than just that too. Perplex is already such a great power. You know, if you're not using it on damage, you're probably using it on attack or defense. There's literally never a reason not to use Perplex, even if you're just a little support figure, it's the last thing you got left. You can Perplex up his defense, and he can maybe try to survive a turn. He can perplex up his attack, and maybe he can hit something. The only thing he can't do now is perplex up his damage, and maybe he can actually hurt something. You know, that's too bad. But like I said, with how much cheap perplex and stuff is in the game now, and how many strong attackers there are, it is kind of better for the game. This does kind of kill Vulture, in a sense, if he doesn't already retire by the time this comes out. Anyway, we'll see. But yeah, like I said, I think it's just a positive change overall. So that's that. That's pretty much all they told us about today. They did say that the next article will cover theme team changes. So I'm very interested to see how they change that, because I think it was fine, but you know, I thought a lot of stuff was fine and they made it better. So we'll see what happens. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think of all these changes. Do you guys like them all? Do you hate them all? Do you like or hate some of them separately? I think, like I said, I think they're all fine. And I think they will all be beneficial to the game overall. It is gonna definitely make it simpler for new players, which is always a plus. But also I think it actually adds a lot, like with the range combat and close combat expert thing. I think that's really good just in general. I think that's just a general buff to those powers, which I think is great. Oh, they did say a lot about the whole Perplex thing. I should mention, like, since they're changing these close combat expert and range combat expert things, and they're probably going to be adding in a lot more like empower and enhancement type characters, that's another reason they wanted to take off the damage part of Perplex to make these powers, you know, more useful at upping damage and really be like the main source of upping your damage, and not just having your little Perplex figure 6 squares away upping your damage so you can running shot in there and kill something. So now it's mainly like, if you really want to up your damage, you're going to have maybe a couple of enhancements set up, and I think that adds a lot more strategic aspects to it, like, because I know that enhancement and power are a lot more difficult to set up correctly first than just, you know, I'll just perplex up 3 times and then boom. But yeah, anyway, that's basically what their thoughts were on that, and kind of why they wanted to make these powers a little more impactful with the damage boost, and Perplex was just too good at it in general, so it had to change. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash that like button, and don't forget to click that subscribe button so you don't miss any of these future rules updates. And if you guys would like to help support the channel even further, you can see your name here in the credits by joining our Patreon supporters. Links in the description there. Oh, and I'll link the description. I always forget to say that. I'll link the description for the article if you guys want to see, read it for yourself there. It's pretty interesting. But that's going to do it for today. Thanks again so much for watching. Until next time, this has been Heroclix Headquarters signing off.